He's whiny.
Yeah, like he sounds like such a bitch.
It would behoove us to keep all these kind of combos on the recording.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's our branding.
Okay, you remember how in the last episode we were talking about how there are those like incognito gas station
meth
like
pipes.
the gas station crack pipes that they sell for like 50 cents or whatever. I didn't know how much they cost. I thought they were like $5 or something. I was just saying random numbers because I've like, despite what you may have heard about me, I've never actually bought the gas station crack pipes, right? So
you like the high quality stuff.
Yeah, I was
I'm
just
a crack pipe snob myself.
Yeah, I'm not a huge
connoisseur with the crack pipe.
We like to at least go for the there's always the good, the better, and the best options, and we like the better tier. But he hit me up and he was like, Lucas, you're actually off. You're about 20 times higher than they actually cost. They're like 25 cents. And he told me that he runs he runs a glass shop or like a smoke shop or something. And I guess they sell them and they're like, yeah, if people come in and they say like, I want a meth pipe, you can't like technically sell it to them, so you have to like get them to ask for like an oil burner or some shit like that. He gave me the whole rundown on it.
An exotic pipe.
Exotic,
what the business model is like in this in this specific sector.
Hey, listen, that's what people come here for, the deep esoteric knowledge that's not going to get anywhere else. Crack pipe, connoisseurship.
Well, I also found out that they sell the crack pipes on Amazon. They sell them as like it's like it's a glass straw, and it's like it is a straw. Like there's a hole in one end.
It's like environmentally
there's just a random bubble at the end of it
for consumption of liquids.
Yeah, no, and they have this really like it's so like such a low effort thing. They have
it's environmentally friendly.
It's definitely environmentally friendly and reusable.
Save the turtles, bro.
Really, like if you go and you look at the categories that they've placed it in, that's the one, right?
That's smart.
So the graphics that they have, I'm gonna have to go in and add these in after the fact because they're so fucking funny.
So awesome.
But they literally just have like a glass of lemonade, and then they've taken like a 20% transparency overlay of their crack pipe.
That Panera lemonade
overlaid
is like crack,
like it's in the glass, but they didn't even get a real glass of fluid to put it in. They just like edited this on. Like it's so low effort. This is like it's like the most like G tier shitcoin media editing I've ever seen in my life.
I love that.
The B&B shitcoin of Amazon. I kind of love that for them.
Absolutely.
So we have to break the tradition. We made it only a couple minutes before we remember to introduce our guest.
Yeah.
We have today is the Berachain special Berachain episode with our guest Smokey, Smokey the Berachain, Smokey the Bera, Smokey,
Smokey of the Beras, etc.
Smokey of House
Berachain CEO. I don't know. I've been referring to you like alternatingly as the founder / CEO / like whatever else because I don't actually know what the title is explicitly.
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. I'm not too sure myself. I can definitely say I'm a co-founder. Papa Bear is ultimately the man behind the scenes in many cases / the CEO, and I like the buck to stop with him. But I have fun out in the public. He's more of a private guy. As we all do. But yeah, I just try to keep the Bera ship afloat and do the thing. So co-founding Berachain, having fun with JPEGs, all the good stuff.
Love it.
Nice. And I guess the other disclaimer that we have to give is both Verse and I have been afflicted by like the plague or something.
Yeah, I have. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. I have like about an hour time limit in my throat before I start coughing maniacally.
I'm sure that regardless of whatever time limit I have for my voice, I'm just gonna like keep going because that's what I do. But I mean, yeah, I'm definitely suffering like 2 standard deviations IQ deficit penalty here. Like I feel like there's like cotton swabs in my brain.
This is gonna be the best episode of Verse and Lucas because we're both just absolutely zonked.
It's gonna be the most relatable episode and also the worst.
Yeah,
the duality of man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay, man. We're on the same mental level in that case. We're all good.
We'd love to see it.
We should actually talk a little bit. We don't usually talk exclusively about crypto, but this is definitely going to be like one of those more crypto things, right?
We like that.
So Berachain launched its test net, and I've got to say, I've got a fucking bone to pick with you, Smokey, dude, because it launched. And what it did, the faucet, when you get on there, you get like 0.025 Bera or something, right? And so like this is what I thought. I was like, oh, they're giving us a tiny amount because like that's not even enough to buy into a position on the perpetual swap app that they have there, right? So like, oh, it's like like a challenge, man. He's saying that you got to like grind it up and you got to like make enough money so that you can swap, so that like if you have high volumes, you get like bigger rewards or something like that. So he's like daring us. So I spent all this fucking time grinding up my stupid testnet wallet. And I finally get my like just enough that I can actually use the perpetual swaps. I make my like YOLO like 25x long on Bitcoin. I actually get like a decent number. And then immediately after I achieve this, all of my friends message me and they're like, oh yeah, the faucet just gives out one whole Bera token now, which is like, that was like 2 times as much as my full account value at the time still. And I was like, I'm going to fucking kill this Smokey guy. What the hell?
Bro, it's about the friends we made along the way, It's about the positions we opened and the times we almost got licked.
I didn't even make friends because I got so many normie people on here. And what they would do is they didn't realize that Bera was the gas token. So they would swap 100% of their Bera for the honey. And then they would say, Lucas, can I get more Bera? And I would say, no, because I'm afraid that if I associate my wallet with your wallet, we both get disqualified from points rewards because they think we're the same person.
So I lost, just fucking spamming it. Amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? That's another type of growing experience, Like, I think that just brings you a little bit more, like, self-care. I think it makes you more powerful as a person. You just get that stoic mindset, some Marcus Aurelius shit, right? And now it's like, every man is an island. That's sort of the direction I'll take with it.
The stoic mindset curated through disappointing and abandoning all of your friends and family and having nobody.
Exactly.
Having no one left.
Imagine the degree of like the self-discipline that cultivates, man. You'd be an unstoppable like monk warrior type by the end of it.
So true.
Yeah.
but actually what we have been doing is, and I've been it's funny, my head of ecosystem and I have been busting the dev team's balls for like the last month, being like, yo, we need to jack up the gas. We need to jack up the gas, need to see what happens to the gas fee market, and also just like give people more to transact with, because until then we were just like sort of arbing the price of Bera up and just adding a fuck ton of lick to the other side of the pool. And we were working through a couple things that were just like technical limitations around that. And so that's why we started with these like crazy low drips, to make sure that basically people couldn't spam the network too hard. Because you guys may have seen, and we pushed out some like data around this, like right now there's like 2 million unique active wallets and like 10 million transactions on the network in 2 weeks, which is kind of fucked given the like, and like in many cases the network has had errors along the way. There's been problems with the faucet I'm sure you guys might have seen. And I was like, all right, cool, we have like 90% bots. And then this morning I got on a call with like the team from Gold Sky that's actually helping us with all of our subgraphs and a whole bunch of like the data analytics on the back end. And they're actually like, yo, that's a lot closer to 50%, which I'm not saying is like great, but that's like a couple of standard deviations like below the norm. Like normally you get like 80+% bots on these things. So on one hand, I'm happy because people are using their shit. On the other hand, I'm like, fuck, that means real people are not being able to hit their, their shit sometimes in terms of like getting the faucet and using the decks and stuff.
Your user volume, as far as I can tell, is like really fucking high. So like for a test, because like people don't usually like swarm test nets like this, right?
No,
like this is quite unusual. Yeah, and I mean I've been shilling this to like everyone I know, regardless of like whether they're in crypto or not, because like how often is it that you get to say like, okay, like I can't like guarantee that there's going to be like an airdrop or anything, but like usually projects give airdrops to early users, and this is a test net, and like it costs no money. So like you might as well use it. Like regardless of whether or not you get an airdrop, like you don't pay any money. Like you're not losing anything other than time. And it's like if you already intended to spend the time figuring out how the fuck crypto works, this is pretty much the easiest way to do it.
Exactly.
100%, man. And like a lot of what we tried to do is to make things like pretty friendly and accessible. And I think that's like a lot of like what Berachain has done, like, thesis wise. It's like, all right, we can have a good time and be like mimetic and like fuck around and find out with a bunch of JPEGs of bears smoking weed that turned into a chain on the surface, and then dive in and it's like, hey, we're actually trying to have a pretty interesting and powerful tech stack here, right? There's all the I think that there's all the stuff that people need to sort of transact / get stuff off the ground, sort of baked in from day one, which is kind of interesting for new users as well, right? They can just sort of click dApps and then be like, oh, cool, I can go swap on the DEX, I can go use the perps, I can go lend, whatever it is you really want to do. And I think that there's like a fine line between, being fed chain and giving people like the basic tools that they want to use that can then be improved upon over time. And we're trying to make sure that we stride that, that balance in the right way. But we also just like, I think one piece of feedback that we got, and I'd be very curious for your guys' take on this, was just like people were saying that they had fun for the first time in quite a while on a test net. And I'm sure there's things that are frustrating, especially like low gas amounts that were, starting to consistently jack up. So I'm sorry, Lucas, that 0.25 is going to feel even smaller soon.
Oh, God. It's okay.
Like,
I actually, this talk just reminded me to go hit up the faucet again.
So I was just thinking about. I was just about to do it while
so I get my daily hit.
Yeah, exactly. I was
like, we want to make it fun, like we want to have like shit in there that's like, even like the confirmation modules and shit, like the foundation website has bears flying around, like something that isn't just like your super vanilla, like here's my Uni V2 fork type crap, right? And I do really think that's like what we're trying to espouse.
I'm like talking with like my family about like, oh, like add liquidity to this and how to like, oh, this is how you add honey to your MetaMask wallet and stuff. And it's like, I could have done this at some other point with like another test net, but like, it's like, I'm not going to like teach my family on some like Cosmos shitter, right? Like,
you got it. You very much got it.
It's
like a recruiter.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's definitely just it has a cool, fun aesthetic. It's a fun chain, and it's all for all the testnet experience I've had, like with working and whatever. It's definitely like pretty. It's pretty seamless considering I've used like test like when I was at my previous gig, which I cannot name for legal reasons. I was on testnets, and some of them were just fucking absolutely brutal to play around.
Well, this is the other thing is like when people say, because I mean I've been getting this a lot from people when they're like not crypto people and they're like, oh well, like I tried this and this transaction failed, or like why is this so glitchy? And it's like, well, it's like a test net, like they're like intentionally, like you can see them like going through and like rotating which part of it they're gonna break every like 3 hours to see like where the limits are, right? And I guess like for people who haven't worked in software, the idea basically that you do intentionally like stress test things to the point of fucking them up beyond working is like a totally foreign concept.
It's so illogical. It's like, why would you break it if it's not broken?
I mean, you do the same thing in physical industry, right? Like I used to
totally
a little bit of a docs, but I used to work on some pretty big stuff that made other stuff, and like the way that you figure out how long it lasts is by running it until it shits the bed, right? It's kind of
totally.
We're also doing this with our financial system on a broader scale.
Yeah, of course. This is basic QA engineering, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So like I would just for our viewers, what would you say differentiates Berachain from others beyond like the aesthetics? So I'm like we'll do a light technical deep dive for our viewers here.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think the simplest way of looking at it is that like Berachain really attempts to accomplish two things, right? It tries to, on one hand, allow users to turn their liquidity into a productive source of security instead of having those two things like as adversaries effectively. Because normally in like a proof of stake chain, if you have a certain amount of capital, like you have 32 ETH, whatever it is, you choose between contributing to security by running a node and or like staking with a validator kind of thing, or by providing liquidity on chain in a DEX, a lending market, whatever it might be, right? In this case, on Berachain, the only way to actually add to security and to produce a staking token of the network is by doing the work of first providing, the liquidity somewhere else on the network. So we think of it as like, you do the work to earn the reward kind of thing, right? I think that's like part one, and there's like a lot of nuance in there, but I think that's really the core thing that we try to accomplish. And then the second thing is that we very much view a chain as a sum of its parts, right? We view it as a sum of the protocols that are living on top of it. I don't think that anyone thinks that much about the base layer they're building on to think about what they're actually using on it, right? Like you're not like, oh fuck, I love the iOS so much. Like, I love like my my Maps application, like iMessage or some shit, right? And I think if we were to view this in a parallel, it's like people care about applications that are unique. People care about stuff that can actually drive people into a new ecosystem in the same way GMX did for Arbitrum, or DFK did for Harmony before that blew the fuck up with locked dual OTCs, or before Friendtech kind of blew up on base and is now kind of doing something. I have no idea. Right. But like, we want to be able to curate as many super dApps as possible and drag those onto Bera. And that's why part 2 is really finding ways to mechanistically empower or advantage the applications that are building on the chain. So what that means is that, for applications that are building on Berachain, they can actually become powered. And I'm using that word like sort of vaguely here, but they can actually end up having emissions from the chain itself directed towards their pools. And or their smart contracts. So you can be building an NFT marketplace, an options protocol, whatever it is. And there's a way for Berachain to actually benefit you as a builder by you like living on top of that base layer. And that's what we care a lot about. Like, I think we've tried to think of it a lot as the most protocol and therefore user aligned chain possible. Because if protocols are bringing the vast majority of users on board, then I think they're ultimately the customer of a chain and a chain environment, right? So we try to do as much as possible to like give them a really good experience while making sure that validators and users are heavily aligned in terms of their incentives.
So I have kind of a stupid question here. I haven't seen any chains that have basically, I don't want to say like forced cooperation necessarily between their protocols, but like forced cooperation in the sense that like every protocol is like forced to advertise like other ecosystem elements, right? Like the decentralized exchange has to advertise like the stable swap, has to advertise like the NFT market, has to, and like all of those also have to advertise like all the other ones. And because like when I go to a chain, or like even when Solana season kicked off, right? Like I didn't know what any of the ecosystem elements were, and I had to go and I had to ask people on Twitter, right? Now I can do that because I have like a weird freak network of people who spend 23 hours a day logged in, right? And they're probably not going to like rug me. But like, I don't know what I would tell my mom if she were to go and like try and figure out what all the ecosystem shit is. And she can't like, it's not like you can go to the Solana site and find out which like protocols they sponsor or whatever, because it's just a list of like 500 things. Right?
Yep.
So like the basic ecosystem things need some way to be like self-advertising in a way, but I don't know like what the best way to achieve that is.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good point / question, man. I think that a lot of it comes down to like better UX as well, right? Like, I think that for so many people, like take the example of your mom or your family, right? Like using MetaMask is often kind of a bitch. And like, interacting with crypto as a whole, especially if you're trying to do anything cross-chain, is generally pretty fucked.
Dude, and teaching random 22-year-old women how to add the honey token manually to MetaMask was like, I was like, oh my God, like I forgot, like I am in weird freak territory.
Listen, man, you're doing God's work. Actually, you know what sent me the other day, man, was I was on Twitter and I saw like this girl, and she was tweeting about like how she was like hyped that the Berachain faucet was live. And she's like, we down, but the Berachain faucet is up. And I'm like, that's crazy. And I thought that this is just like a random bot or a dude like pretending to be a girl, as is often the case on Twitter. And this still might really be a great extended psyop, right? Because the last time this happened, where we found a Twitter account that was a girl that was posting about Berachain, I messaged her being like, yo, like, what got you into this? Because I'm trying to understand, like, what is it that actually like helps get people who are not necessarily our core or original audience in? And then this motherfucker responds, and it's our intern from a term ago. He's like, yo, I'm trying to get more e-girls on Berachain, bro. And I am losing my shit, like laughing at this. So then when I look at this girl's profile, I'm like, wait a second, there's like posts from like 2 years of her like docs. I'm like, holy shit, we might have our very first Berachain baddie. And I think that like baddie. And like, I'd love to understand how the fuck that she found her way into this whole like funky ecosystem / atmosphere.
The intern method is
like maybe
I have a decent handful of, because when Friendtech came out, I basically realized, okay, like any OnlyFans girl with a large following who joins this is going to just be handed an instant like $10,000 essentially.
Easy print.
And like I have a decent amount of them. I don't really understand why, but I have a decent amount of them who follow me. So all of the ones who followed me, I just reached out and I said like, hey, like if you join this weird crypto thing, it's not going to cost any money from you. I'll fund your account or whatever. Just make sure you tell me when you're opening it so that I can buy your shares early and make.
So you became an on-chain OnlyFans manager,
right? Yeah. And so I had a bunch of these who I told to do this, and the ones who listened all made money. And so now they've just been like they like me now. And so if I tell
I
them like
love that for you.
something about crypto, it's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna do that because like the last time you did, and it's like I could still waste a lot of time doing this like 3 or 4 times over, and it would make up
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it would be made up for by the amount of money that I made off of Friend Tech. It's like,
Bro, that's
yeah.
amazing. It's kind of like you should use them as your market indicators if any of them also work in like the adult industry or strip clubs, because like, the stripper index probably is even like more zoomed in if you
Stripper
like
index
get
Yeah.
the FT plus stripper
Dialed.
index, right?
There's actually like a really low overlap between OnlyFans and stripping. Like it's usually
That's
like
fair.
you do the
What
OnlyFans because you don't want to
Don't want to
do
strip.
don't
the
want? Yeah,
real
that's
stuff,
reasonable. That's
right?
reasonable.
The
Yeah.
stripper index is very dialed in. They know the when we were in Bitcoin Miami, there's like everything in Miami is a strip club, even if you're not a strip club.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like the girls there, like we start talking, they're like, "Oh, what are you guys here for the crypto?" They were like just as knowledgeable as like anyone I knew at the conference. And I was like,
I
"Okay," I'm
don't
like,
doubt it.
these girls know what's
It's
up."
so fucking
They're
funny to
dialed
me that
in.
there's like massive populations of men who are like, I'm gonna go spend $280 an hour at this strip club so that I can talk about finance to naked women.
And then go
Like,
back
I
and do
will,
that on a Twitter group chat with a bunch of incels like 20 minutes
yeah, yeah.
later.
Well, and then they're gonna be sitting there in that group chat, and they're gonna be thinking like it's not the same. Like these
Yeah.
incels listening to me they're
It's just
not
not the
listening as
same.
hard as those strippers were. I'm going back tomorrow.
They're
This
about
is
to
actually his
grind.
market research.
They're about to grind set, literally and figuratively. That's the thing about strippers.
Yeah. Yeah, so
You know
hey,
what? I think a while back, I was like,
Lord.
there were a couple places I was like, there was some points like I was talking to my BD team as we were looking at like the next set of hires, and I was like, there's probably two groups of people that are highly underrated when it comes to just like skilling people up in sales. And one is the Canal Street motherfuckers. They'll try to sell you like a fake Rolex or a fake AP, and they'll like roll up to you with a laminated piece of paper and then take you through 5 back alleys. And the other one is strippers. Like I feel like the stripper sales game is like impeccable, like high EQ, like understanding of people's needs, like everything in between.
They're one of the only people I think who would probably figure out like when to just like not fuck with someone, you know? Like everybody
Yeah,
talks about like the oh, just sell me this pen thing. And it's like
yeah.
frequently the answer to that question though is actually just like, okay, dude,
No,
but do
fuck
you even
off.
like need a pen? Like, do you
Yeah,
want a pen? Or like am I gonna like make you want to kill me by trying to sell you
yeah,
this
yeah.
pen when you don't need a pen? And like
Completely
I think
reasonable.
strippers are probably the number one group of people who figure out how to gauge that non-verbally, right? Because like, I mean, presumably if you're in a strip club, you're there because you want strippers, but like there are going to be a good amount of cases where like the guy is just having a rough fucking day and his friends are like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, dude, I know what's going to cheer him up. Let's take him to the strip club. But it's like, I can imagine like if I just got like divorced by my wife or something and my friends like take me to the strip club, I'm not going to be like super into the strippers. And if one of them starts like
yeah.
throwing ass at me, I'm going to be like, I'm not really like normally a violent guy, but like this is really bringing it out in me, right? Like,
I'm in a self defense situation. You're
yeah.
putting me in a self defense situation.
And it's like you only probably misread that situation like once as a stripper, never
Nah,
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
they're
That
smart though. They know to
teachable
go to
moment.
they go to the girl first. They've been around the block a few times.
Oh yeah, they get the lowdown.
Never
The
put baby in a
situation
corner.
lowdown.
Never put baby in a corner. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
Decent.
what other on topic crypto before we branch off into our usual debauchery.
I keep wanting to ask
Yo,
about like more and more of the Bera stuff, dude. So like you basically because do you know what my like Bera lore is? Like my
I have
understanding of Berachain?
such little understanding of yours, brother. All I know is that
Okay.
Spence hit me up and was like, "Yo, you got to hop on with Lucas and the boys." And I was like, "Okay, let's go."
Okay, dude. So my Bera journey, as we might call it, I guess if we were doing some sort of struggle session here, is that uh I had never been approached for any sort of a seed, anything, whatever. I was fairly new to crypto at the time. Not new to I was new to crypto Twitter, I should say. Uh
hmm
and Zor comes to me and he's like, dude, like we got this allocation for this if you want to throw any money. And I understood roughly that this was how you make money is by investing in seed
Mm.
rounds, right? I had a very vague
Yeah, yeah.
sense that that's how it worked. However, this was like, I don't know if this was after like the Luna crash or
Yeah, probably.
basically last cycle, there were like 2 or 3 times where I lost all my money and then made it again, right? And it was right after one of these times where I was basically like, I'm looking at the funds I have on chain and I'm like, it's
I'm
like
not feeling good, mate.
$13, bro. It's like $13, man. It's not a lot of money here. And
I got one swap in me.
Yeah. So I looked, that wasn't even one. That was like, I'm trapped.
That's true.
Point in the cycle. And I go and I read through the docs. I saw like the proof of liquidity thing, which is like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to explain to the listeners here, proof of stake versus proof of work versus proof of liquidity now.
We'll put that in there.
But I mean, the basic idea is that like, it's a thing that is going to be generating liquidity pools, which will make swapping on chain less financially fucking ruinous for people who want to be involved in that. So I was like, yeah, I like this. I guess this makes sense. It's like if you took like the part of ohm that's like retarded out of it and made it an L1, sounds good. I want to invest. Unfortunately, $13. So then I passed on that. Nothing happened for like 6 months. And from then on out, like I asked Zora again, like how it was doing. And from then on out, it just became like absolutely like suicide inducing because everything that I heard was like, oh, dude, that allocation slot that you got, it's up like a 60x now. Oh, it's up like 120x now. Oh, dude. And like just every time I heard anything new about it, I was like, okay, I understand now. I literally curved like $6 million because I refused to drop like $200 into this thing. But so yeah, now it's like then Spence comes back and he's like, hey, do you want to work with us? And I was like, yeah, I assume this is some sort of like weird cheeky thing from God where he's saying like, you like fucked up the first time, you might as well do it this time.
Run it back, Turbo.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'm glad to be here, man. And yeah, like look, it's been entertaining to see how this has evolved. Like it started with a bunch of NFTs for shits and gigs that we really were not sure where they would go. And then we were like, okay, rebasing NFTs because this is kind of funny and a little bit more interesting than your standard 10K PFP collection. And they were like, okay, there's actually real problems here. There's a community that wants to see problems solved. There's ideas that we have on how we could implement that technically. What if we built a chain where this is actually implemented at the protocol level? And then I think, recently someone described us as eigenlayer for shitcoins, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, but also somewhat like accurate in that the whole idea is you're taking liquidity of any form, not just staked ETH or variants of staked ETH, and you're using it to produce security in another manner, right? Which is like, honestly not the worst comparison at all. And I was like, I don't think I'm offended. I think I'm actually kind of flattered because I think it's kind of hilarious and really powerful if done right. So it's just been evolutions.
You're going to save me some time for research because I was supposed to know what eigenlayer already was, and I did not know this week. What is eigenlayer?
We're actually running an eigenlayer validator node. I think we just spun up a second one.
Who?
Yeah.
Us?
Well, not our friend group, roughly.
Oh, interesting.
The boys.
Yeah. The boys did.
I think I've
been left out again
in there somewhere.
It's over for me.
I think.
I think the best way about thinking about
ETH to an address, and I sent ETH to the address. So either I got robbed or it's in the validator nodes. That's all I know.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. This has happened before, and I just got robbed, but I don't think this guy's going to rob me.
Oh, is that the thing you were talking about the other day? Where you were like, I sent money to is that eigenlayer?
No, I think I put more on Blast. Which is funny. What's your opinion of Blast? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have even said that, Smokey. But so you basically have a thing where you make native yield on chain, right? Because
in a manner.
Yeah. And they were like, we're gonna do native yield on chain, but like instead of building the product, we're just gonna like raise $4 billion and then build the product with the $4 billion we've raised. And I imagine that if I was someone who had already been spending 2.5 years building a product before necessarily raising the $4 billion, and then somebody did that and pulled all of the money out of the ecosystem that we were targeting also for raises, I would be sitting there kind of like, I'm a little bit peeved at you guys. Like, I'm a little bit irritated.
I'm irritated because I didn't know you could just ask for money first and then without any kind of proof of concept. Just like, yo, give me like $4 billion and then I'll give you. I promise I'll give you something
like
later.
they spent like $5K on like a pretty snappy, nice website, and it had like the video game font and like the nice like neon video game colors,
Verse
and
and Lucas
people were like,
podcast
"Oh
needs to do
fuck."
this. We fucked up. I promise we'll be bigger than JRE.
It's
Yeah,
all
we
branding,
should've-
dog. It's all
Give us
branding.
Billy right now, and I
Dude,
promise we'll be bigger than
There's
JRE.
no way that the real world asset thing doesn't somehow culminate in you getting to raise money based off of like personality cult attributes, right? Like the social
Definitely.
fi thing that's basically been like one of the only theses I care about, is getting to like long and short like themes, or like if I can go long incels and like short like Obama or
Word
something.
cells. Yeah.
Or like long
Yeah.
like verse and like short whatever, like
Yeah.
that has to happen. Someone's and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
obviously like you say this and everyone's like, well, okay, but like what metrics are you going to use? And it's like people have been asking that question for long enough now. We're getting to the part of the cycle where people start actually like figuring out which metrics make sense. And I think a big part
Correct.
of next cycle is going to be like Twitter/X integration into all of these crypto protocols to either like,
For sure.
because like everybody's tweeting out their profit and losses and stuff like that. But it's like, just go fucking link your Twitter profile and
Yeah, shout out to
Yeah.
NSC Top.
Go link your Twitter profile so that you can actually like prove to us that you did it, because I don't believe you guys at this point. Like, it's not real.
Yeah. On-chain proof of cloud kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what a
also
lot of the
funny.
SocialFi stuff has been. Right, like I think Frentech was like brilliant in terms of like how they targeted their launch and their rollout, right? Like they got a bunch of folks who have a lot of on-chain clout, and they weaponized that / monetized it, right? They created a competitive marketplace for it.
SocialFi is like, there's going to be at least one SocialFi cycle in the next bull run, right? Like,
yeah, definitely believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, man.
For that, actually, for just going around and saying like, they're like, oh, but like Frentech sucks and it's going away, and it's like, I'm not even speaking on Frentech specifically, but the fact that it like took over everything that quickly and became that like direct of a market niche, like there's energy there that somebody is going to like target financially, right? Like you would be very stupid not to.
Oh, it's super impressive if done right. And I think that they like definitely had lightning in a bottle at one point, and like maybe they'll get it again with V2, what have you. I think that things just sort of went ghost for a little bit, and maybe there's some internal reorg / planning of what comes next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like Racer. I don't know really anyone else who's involved, but he seems like not a retard to me, so I assume he'll probably do something cool.
No, he strikes me as a sharp dude. Pancake Sprout was involved for a little while, and I think not nowadays, but I think they amicably parted ways, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. I don't want there to be some sort of weird thing where I'm saying I like Racer, and then
our comments,
6 hours, I get 40 DMs from people saying like, "Oh, you like Racer, so you want to fucking kill this other guy, and you think he deserves to be poor and broke, and you're glad he got fired?" And I'm like,
listen, like non-zero chance.
Yeah, I mean anything is possible.
Very likely, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear that for sure.
So
there was an original question somewhere in there, Lucas.
We lost it.
Remind
okay.
There was a plot.
I have no idea what the original question was, but do you feel that Blast unfairly pulled from your righteously deserved liquidity? And are you going
I don't think that's a thing.
Are you going to war with Blast?
Listen, I believe in growing the pie. But I also think that's kind of bullshit, and I think that you kind of have to eat someone else's pie first in other cases.
Hell yeah.
Exactly how I was going to respond to you saying that you believe in growing the pie.
We're putting the lines on the battlefield. Fuck Blast.
Yeah, I was going to say there's one pie. We know what size it is. It's not getting any fucking bigger, and you have to go steal it from a grandma if you want more.
I smell that pie on the windowsill. And
you see that Disney cartoon ass like fucking floating motherfucker over there? Nah, I'm taking that pie, bro. No, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's any such thing as like our deserved liquidity or lack thereof. I think it's something where I actually think the Blast team is pretty sharp and pretty capable. I've known Pac-Man for a while, and I think he's a sharp dude. I think it's there's aspects about the legality and or launch that I would find questionable myself. And it's not something that I would have done, and I don't think that I'm the only person who views that. But sometimes in for a penny, in for a pound. Look, I think I will say that
it's insane in the sense that like you're saying, I don't know that I would have done it. And I'm also saying, I don't know that I would have done it, even though doing it literally entails being handed like what, like $1 billion.
Yeah, and
Like
a multi-sig.
And a
I'm
multi-sig,
literally
that's
so scared of the legal ramifications of all of that like, and it's like, can you
correct.
even like, I don't even know if I could touch the money in the multi-sig
Bro,
and
listen,
use it
Bro.
for like legal fees.
4 different red flags, sirens have gone off in my head about this, and I have no justification other than my historical knowledge in the space. And I'm a profit maxi, but at the same time, I'm like, I get sussed out when you tell me you have that much money in a multi-sig. I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know, bro.
like listen, I'm not publicly anti-blast or anything of the sort.
I'm not
I think that we will be
anti-blast.
competitive.
It's so funny. What's your private position?
Listen, privately, I'm here to take heads. That's how it goes.
Okay. I was gonna say,
like,
dude, if you're not betting on your own ecosystem, I'm not betting on your own ecosystem.
Exactly.
You better want to behead him, man.
I said this to DeFi Dave like a couple days ago when I was doing the Philo with him. I told him, like, I was like, brother, like, you know, I don't necessarily believe in displacing ETH, but if you think I'm not coming for every other fucking head out there, you're wrong. And that is what Berachain's meant to be, bro. Like, it's not meant to be like, you know, the ultimate vampire vector, but it's meant to be a place that makes it better for builders to go there than anywhere else. And I think Blast has an interesting, like, you know, contrary but similar value prop in terms of, like, you get your rebasing like native yield in some manner from like putting in other protocols, which I think comes with its own different degree of risk. You know, we have bridge risk as well. Like there's risk everywhere, right? But I think it's choose your flavor. And I respect them for pulling off a marketing campaign or a game that allowed them to bring in a lot of capital. The stickiness of that will be seen in the future, and what other people try to do with that capital will also be seen in the future. But like, you know, there's it's all is fair in love and war on this one, as I see it.
If they can figure out how to use some portion of the money in that multi-sig to cover the legal and the legal fees necessary and like the
insurance
fees,
fund,
basically, yeah, so that they can figure out how to legally use the rest of it, they can build something amazing. If they can't, then there's just going to be a multi-sig with like $1 billion of our dollars in it that nobody ever touches because they're all scared to go to jail, right? Like that's an actual funny outcome, is that they don't steal the money, they just leave it there forever untouched because they're so worried that touching it carries a like legal penalty, right?
That's a very
we don't
that outcome.
Yeah, like we don't even get like robbed. We just like
we just get like frozen.
Yeah,
it's not a rug you just can't sell. That's all it is.
This is a social experiment. Blast.
It would be even funnier because like it just keeps gaining interest forever, right? So it's like we're making this like 4% yield or whatever on our thing, and it's just like it would be funny to be trapped for like a year in there because like, we know where ETH is going to go, right? Like ETH is going to go way up. We make the 4% on that, and we're like, wow, like I would have like $20,000 if I didn't like.
Like theoretically speaking, I am fucking loaded right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be beautiful, man. Actually, I think they'll just use it all to market bid when like, you know, when Barry dumps again, and then like boom, you know, Blast saves crypto. We could see that happen too. Like I don't think that's gonna happen, but
that would be really funny.
You know, I think that would be the funniest outcome. But I don't know if it's necessarily the one I'd bet on. What it did make me think about though is I'm like, I feel like Paradigm has such an interesting altering spree, right? I think that they do one incredible deal that sounds very cool in terms of like a technical narrative and in terms of like, you know, pushing the future of like adoption kind of thing. Like they'll do Axiom or they'll do like Privy. And then they'll do like, you know, a couple like gigaponzis along the way.
Yeah. And then everyone like nobody figures this out. Like everybody still has like, oh, it's a paradigm deal, dude. It's a paradigm deal. And they're all treated exactly the same. Every time Paradigm touches anything, it's like, oh, this must be as good as like those last 6 paradigm winners. And it's like, well, but like, do you remember the 30 other? And they're like, no, I don't.
And then, well, you know, it's interesting. Like, I was talking to Anish, like, who used to be on their team about this when we were in Toronto. And I think it brings up a very good point in many cases. It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to make money? And I think they've selected to do both in certain ways, right? Like, they're probably making money on a lot of the things that you know, have more retail appeal, but, you know, have a little bit more of those you know, Ponzi elements to it. And, like, lots of people call us a Ponzi. Like, that's fine. Like, and that's, you know, I think you take your licks into space.
I've called you guys, like, a vaporware Ponzi.
I have no doubt. Like, as a man of culture does.
Yeah.
It's just like it's actually a mark of honor as I see it.
Well, it's funny
I
because
don't
in
say.
crypto, like the fact that you actually spent 2 years building a product before releasing it, like that's normally what you do, right? Like that's what a responsible
Yeah,
business
that's
would
like
do.
Web 2. Yeah,
But
yeah.
this is right, but this is like indicative that you came from like an actual software engineering space. Because in crypto, it's like nobody would ever do that. You announce the thing and then you release it 3 days later, and it like mostly
Yeah.
doesn't work, but nobody cares because they're not using it to use it. They're using it because it's like enabling them to buy a speculative asset or something, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like when I was like, oh, these guys, like 2 years, bro, they're building for 2 years. Like, what is
The
this?
fuck you
Fucking
doing over there, bro?
Facebook?
Fucking
Is this fucking
building, bro.
MySpace over here, bro? I don't know, man.
Motherfucker thinks he's Google out here.
Yeah.
Discount Jeff Bezos looking ass.
Like how much building does it really take to put a fucking connect your wallet MetaMask button on a
Maybe you
swap website, man?
Stop building and launch a fucking token.
Stop building and launch the token. Every single business.
Many
Yeah,
such cases.
launch
Yeah, a
that
lot of you
fucking
guys,
token. Where's my
you've been
airdrop?
building. You've been trying to figure out like product market fit, all these customer integrations. You've been onboarding KOLs, figuring out like marketing lore angles. Release the fucking token, man.
Yeah, bro.
Every single time.
just I remember there was a point.
How about you build that airdrop button?
How about you build me some fucking money, dog?
Dude, when people first learn in crypto that announcing that you have an airdrop coming is like illegal, it like
Oh my
it like
God.
changes their entire understanding of the market. It's so fucking
So
funny to
funny.
watch. Like if you ever
Oh,
get to be
dude.
the one to tell people that like, okay, announcing an airdrop and saying that you're guaranteed going to do an airdrop is like a massive like
It's
securities
massively illegal.
violation.
Yeah.
And you can like
Yeah,
watch
exactly.
every single part of their brain like restructure
Just like
around.
wait a second.
Yeah, like they're like so like all these ideas I had about how things should function or like how you could like make money for.
They're just jail in a box.
What?
Instant, yeah, they go to jail.
It's all jail.
all of this
It
only
always
works
has
and
been.
exists because it's being deployed by like Ukrainian scammers. You can't actually do this in the U.S. Oh no!
Oh my God!
It's all
Dude,
jail, bro. It's
it's
always
jail
has
all the
been.
way down. It's so funny, man. It's so funny, and yeah, like I remember there's once there's like a copy pasta that went viral in like the Berachain Discord where these guys like mint the damn chain, Smokey, mint the damn chain.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck's sakes, boys! There's a decentralized validator set. I do not touch any buttons. I am not a dev. I talk. Fucking kills me, man.
So I've been raising some for some like TradFi companies, and
yeah.
There were some people who were saying like, yeah, you should hit up some like crypto VCs or crypto whales because like they don't usually get opportunities for equity investment. They'll probably be interested. And I was like, sure, that sounds like a reasonable thesis. Why not? And you do, and then you realize it's like, if you don't have a token, these people do not give a shit. Like,
oh my God,
like,
bro.
The explaining equity or like the concept of an exit or like a Series C or any of this shit to a crypto VC. And it's like, I don't even think most crypto VCs are like, they're not like VCs. Like they haven't raised funds that they're using towards like an investment mandate. They're like a group chat of friends who like pooled a few ether. It's very, and then they call themselves a VC. And I assumed they were a VC because they were calling themselves a VC, but it's like, they're not a VC. They're just a group chat who want to buy and dump tokens.
Like, big time, man. And it goes from like, when Binance, like there is no when Robinhood, you know what I mean? Like it's not like, like it's not when Quest Trade. Like I think that the liquidity time horizons are just so far off in terms of expectations. And there's very few funds that actually do both sides well.
I explained that it was going to be like, I don't know, maybe fucking like 3 years before an exit.
And even that's like often pretty optimistic, like trad wise, right? Like unless you're in a fucking crazy hot industry, like, AI 2 years ago, those companies are just starting to get bought up, right? Like these are tough sells in most cases. And, if you're talking about things that you're working on before where you're making things that allow you to turn other things into other things, those sorts of, physical and or deep tech, whatever adjacent industries often take much, much longer too, right? So totally different investor classes as I see it. And like having come from that kind of a background, it's always hilarious to me to see just like, I think the degree of impatience you get in the market. And it's also because like, crypto operates on fucking like 3-day cycles and like 7-day turnarounds as opposed to like months and months of shit. It's like, oh cool, we're done with the cat coins and now we're moving on to like AI coins.
Right, and like everybody's
sure.
attention span has been so thoroughly ravaged by just like I don't know if you've noticed this, but you can kind of like gauge like attention liquidity as an asset in the same way as like actual liquidity, and you can literally watch it dry up.
I would say that that's like one of the most important things for the crypto market. Like it is like, everyone talks about the attention economy all the time, but the attention economy is like the capital follows the attention in crypto. If you don't have the eyes, it doesn't matter. Like an entire ecosystem will dry up overnight once everyone's moved on.
Yeah, and you have to get used to like the signals that things are going to dry up soon, and like know where they're likely to like either rotate to, or if they're rotating at all, or if we're just like done and the music stops here for a bit. And like like for Solana, like there's a basic like, okay, you're gonna have the meme coins, and you're gonna have the utility tokens, and you're gonna have the NFTs, like that cycle. You watch it go through on every one of the L1 or alt chains, and you start watching it happen faster and faster and faster, and you're like, people are running low. They're out of fuel. Like they can't pay attention for very long. And that means that we're about to go down soon, right? Like this is always what happens before we go down.
Yep. Exactly. No, 100%, man. Like you run out of steam at some point, right? Like I think there's even a point like probably like a month ago or something where the rotations were happening like pretty fast and it felt like the market was picking up. And I think after like long enough in like that mini spotlight, you're like, nah, this can't last right now.
Yeah.
This is gonna like sort of fume out.
It's like we're still in the test pump area. Get memed into bridging to a new chain, and then within 1 week, the new chain that you've bridged to is like already like there's like scammers and rugs and sniper bots and shit. You're like, holy shit, man! Like, how was I late somehow? Like, I literally did it instantly.
Yeah, you just jump headfirst into the fucking knife fight, right? And like you're like, oh, why have I been stabbed?
Yeah. Hey, so speaking of scammers, I was wondering what's as a crypto industry expert insider whose guidance is going to be taken by everybody that listens to this podcast, because it's definitely going to protect their funds and financial security.
We are not
right. Wait a second. Hey. Hold up now.
We're gonna replay the our new clip that's like, oh, we are not financial advisors, we are not this. Someone say we're not even employed. That's our new.
We need to start adding that at the beginning of every episode. But anyways, my question about how all of our followers should protect their financial futures with your personal advice here, Smokey, is what do you actually do for like a hardware wallet, or like do you use a multi-sig, or like for your personal funds, not like how do you actually deal with custody?
Yeah, I got you. So I think that so I'll first preface this by saying it's never financial advice. I'm financially like very stupid, but I think that 9 out of 10 times I'm just using a ledger, man. Like it's
I love ledger.
I've always used ledgers. Like they're not perfect, but like just gets the job done. I think that like money under your mattress, like really good over there. Like sometimes like ceiling / floorboards. There's lots of good places you can put that. You can put your ledger in under your mattress, or like your floorboards as well. Like whatever is really like floating your boat there.
Paper wallets are cool for Bitcoin. I don't know if I use them for other stuff, but for Bitcoin, the paper wallet is solid.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there.
Because this is my I can say this now because I've finally undone it, and so I'm not like at risk of being instantly hacked when I tell everyone this. But for literally 4 years, the wallets that I used for basically all of my crypto were stored on a MetaMask that was on my phone, with the seed phrase kept in a Google Keep Notes on the cloud titled MetaMask seed phrase.
Oh no.
And I just changed this like 3 weeks ago because I was like, well, like at this point, the amount that we're like putting in these wallets, that like I would be sad if it were to go away instantly somehow, right? And the other thing is like it's a free story, And like there's this thing where if you tell people like, oh, like that's how I store my crypto, it's on my phone with a cloud password, like if you tell people that and like brag about how you haven't gotten hacked yet, you're basically daring God to instantly hack every asset you have, right, at that exact moment. So
an act of violence.
Yeah, so I've been trying out some hardware wallets, and I just don't know, like, what I tried them out, I was like, I don't really like I kind of like didn't get it for a long time because I was like, is this even like different? Because you still have to like.
What's better?
It's slightly better. I mean, it's not much different than. I mean, it is, but it's not. Like the difference between Ledger and MetaMask on like a from like a wallet, the actual wallet is not big, but like you're bound to get phished or something off MetaMask because you might like approve something against your.
Exactly.
Like I think
that barrier to use is actually positive there, right? Like same as like having a YubiKey or whatever for like your Twitter or like your socials and shit. Like I think that actually also goes a long way, and like we've instituted that across our entire team. And sometimes you'll just see someone like accidentally tap their fucking YubiKey and type like 20 like gibberish letters into the chat.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's really it's a little bit slower. I mean, it makes it hard to like. To shitcoin like trade or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have the speed, but that's what saves you, right?
Exactly. Like I think that like what I've often done in like the preferred setup is like keep majority of your funds in like hardware / cold, and then like have like some small shitcoining fund that you keep in a hot wallet. And if you get rugged, like you get rugged. Like you
exactly.
learn a little bit. You cultivate excellence.
Yeah. No, exactly. my thought basically is like, I had to think about it like ground up because like I'm not the type of person who's going to go and like read a bunch of articles on like why hardware wallets are good or like what they do or anything. But like after setting it up, I basically was like, okay, so it seems the main benefit is that like with a hardware wallet, there's never any reason for you to enter your seed phrase on your computer. Like it should basically never touch a computer ever if you're doing everything right. And that seems fine. But like if I'm thinking about it, like the way that I'm probably going to get hacked, I don't think is like because someone tricks me into putting my seed phrase somewhere. It's because it's like I'm going to interact with a contract that's pretending it's going to give me like an airdrop or something. And then they're going to take all of it because I'm being like a greedy retard who thinks that I'm going to like $160 airdrop. Right. And it seems like for most people, the best way is just use like whatever hardware wallet or like seed phrase or whatever, like just use like Rabby or some shit that forces you to go and like read through everything and click on it. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's just like that. Like you can't yeet as fast there, right? You can't be like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get my like ZK sync airdrop. Like hold up a second, right? I think that the extra second of processing time is actually kind of super bullish there.
Yeah, and it seems inconvenient. Like I was like looking at the different hardware wallets and wondering like, do I want to get one that like I can use with my phone and like lets me do all this stuff really quickly and I can like enter my password and it has like a touch screen so I can like enter everything in like 4 seconds? Or do I want to get one that has like 2 buttons and is like a huge pain in the ass to use and it has like a 160 pixel OLED screen that I can't view in sunlight? And it's like, no, actually, the second one is better because there's basically never an instance where you make a decision under like financial duress that isn't like hugely retarded and ruinous for your future.
I'll say as a pretty good rule of thumb, you want to stay away from phones though. The SIM swaps are so common. People get wrecked on their phones constantly.
They're rough, man. Even like MetaMask... Oh, sorry, Bruce. I was just saying, even for like numbers like your Twitter or like Telegram or shit, like I think having an eSIM there is often like pretty good as a backup, just OPSEC wise.
Wait, how like everybody recommends against phone trading, and I've always kind of thought that like my phone is way more secure than my computer. In terms of like,
you can get SIM swapped hella easy, bro.
Yeah, people are like masters of that shit. Yeah.
Okay, but like they can
SIM swap the SEC.
Swap me. They can SIM swap me, but they can't get my seed phrase from my MetaMask.
They can get. I mean, like if you have your phone, now for a lot of people you have 2FA. You have now you can get around. You can just get around a lot of shit. You have like auto. You can get into your
I didn't set up like MetaMask. Like text me a recovery phrase or like like,
not that. But like, especially when when you had your stuff on, you had your seed phrase in your whatever, in a note that said like my seed phrase, right?
Oh yeah, like absolutely they can get me that way.
Yeah. I mean, like there's having
there's just a lot of adjacencies.
Yeah, having like redundancy in like protection is what stops it, right? like sure, like I don't trade on my phone just in general, right? But it doesn't like, if they SIM swap me, they would get basically nothing because I don't use my phone for that. And then beyond that, I also have like my seed phrase elsewhere, and I have my hardware, like just having more of those layers.
Because I just know that like in an absolute sense, I accumulate more like bullshit malware on like my Windows computers than I do on any phone I've ever owned in my entire life. Just by going,
I believe
and like
that totally.
there's definitely like a higher chance of there being a keylogger on my desktop tower that I've had for like 4 days now than there is on any phone that I've ever owned of any operating system, like Apple or Android. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, no, valid, man. I think that like I'm also biased in this, like Mac user, and I think that's actually a false sense of security in some cases. Like I know there can totally be keyloggers and shit that hits Mac users a little bit easier, but at the same time, like I'm never like really like clicking weird links or installing weird shit, and I'm like Verz, I don't trade on my phone either. So if I would just be like, okay, shitcoin wallet, hardware wallet, no more thinking, and then just like fucking hide those pieces of paper with with the hardware wallet seed phrases.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't know. And then I came down to the thing of like, which hardware wallet am I going to trust with all of my stuff, right? Because, and then you get down to it and you start reading and it's like, okay, so there's like instances where basically every hardware wallet has been compromised by some person. They've all like been patched now, in theory. There's still some weird concerns about like, I guess people are always spurging out about like does Ledger have our seed or not or whatever. I don't know. And because it's like, it's not open source software, there's not really a great way to tell. But there's not really a great way to choose between any of these things either, because it's like a really new product market, right? Like 12 years for like an encrypted product. It's like, I don't know, that's not a long time to stand up like the tests of Anyway, I think I'm gonna go with Tracer just because the fucking the little shape where it's like a little shield and it comes down at the bottom. It's just funny.
Yeah, they're not bad. They got the job done. And you know what? Actually, a lot of friends have been showing me on the I think it's called the Lattice Grid or the Grid Plus or something like that recently. Like it has like a larger screen
thing. Yeah,
I heard that one bangs. Yeah. I haven't gotten one myself, but like I've heard good things about it for sure. And you know what? Like, listen, there's totally been times where I've like fucking played myself hard by having like funds on my hardware wallet. Like I remember one of my friends told me about Peapod's Finance at like 2 mil market cap or something, and I'm like, oh, I should probably punt this, but I'm kind of lazy to get up and go and get my ledger. And then I blinked, and a week later it was at like 100 mil market cap or something. I'm like, oh, nice, I'm poor again.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like you really need to think hard about what assets you actually keep on the pain in the ass to use wallet. Like I'm always going to have a phone that has something on it because like I need the ability to just like dump idiot funds into things without really thinking that much or having like a strong like thesis, because otherwise I'll just like never do it. And I really shouldn't be touching my long-term Bitcoin ETH ever. Like there's never a situation where it's a good idea for me to be like moving those around. So they should just be on a hardware wallet, and the hardware wallet itself should be locked inside a safe that I don't have a key to. I give the key to my mom or something, and I say like, only ever give me this key if I like lose an arm or something.
Dude, like that setup is a little bit different, but not far off from like one of our core team members has. Like he's been in the space for a long time, has like a meaningful amount of like Bitcoin and ETH and like stacked, and like all of his seed phrase information, etc., is in the vault like at his home, and like only him and his wife like know how to get into it. And he came to Toronto for our on-site, and he was trying to log into his MetaMask and it wasn't working, and he was tripping balls because he thought that like his stuff might have been compromised in some manner. And even for that, like his seed phrases and stuff were like hidden back home, and his wife was traveling and shit. Like there's some times where that degree of security gets like kind of scary. But there's other times where I think 9 out of 10 times like, yo, I'm actually happy that this is the case because there's such little chance of someone fucking me with this.
Yeah,
it's always a cost benefit.
You got it.
With the security stuff.
The Lattice Plus thing is really funny though, just like in terms of the form factor. So it's like this little, it looks like a little checkout terminal thing that's like sitting there like diagonally, and you like swipe a card. And it's one of those things where like you could have it sitting on your computer desk, and if like a normal girl came over, she would probably think like, oh, this is cute and cool, as opposed to like what
it's like
she
a
would
funky
think.
iPad.
Yeah, when she sees like any other crypto wallet, which is like, ew, this is like some gross Tamagotchi thing. Like, are you 4? Like, are you 14? Like, what's wrong with you, dude? So like that's
I
a
have a
reason to get it.
reasonable, dude. I have like a bag of ledgers like on like a table in my living room,
Yeah.
and every now and then my girlfriend just looks at it funny, and I'm like it's there. Trust me, it's a good thing. I haven't had to do the deep dive yet.
When they like take out the ledger and they flip it open and they see that there's no USB port on it, and then they just start either like they get extremely inquisitive or they get extremely mad. I've only ever seen one of the two. Just like, what the like, why? I don't understand why somebody would, and then like you don't want to tell them what it is, right? Like you don't want to say, oh, that's the hardware wallet where I keep like this house amount of money on, right? Like,
this is where I have about 90% of my net worth, and it looks like a shitty USB stick.
Dude, they are genuinely like no hate. I'm sure Ledger's a great, beautiful company or whatever. But like when I got the first Ledger, I was like, this is like the shittiest build quality I've ever felt on anything that, like, this is literally like I could make this for like $2. Like the plastic is just like it's super thin, really shitty feeling. The metal casing around the outside is so thin, and like the bends aren't even like super great. It just
big time
bad construction.
Big time.
Like
I thought that.
I kind of like that a little. It's kind of like in the Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. Like the Holy Grail is like the ugly one that's like covered in cobwebs. That's like the Ledger. It's
so bad that it's good.
It's yes, exactly. You don't want. It's like if
flashy.
you have the thing about having a safe in your home is everyone knows like it draws the attention and you know that there's shit in there, right? You want to have your inconspicuous, ugly USB drive that just doesn't stand out in a room. Then
it's valid.
You know. Hide in plain sight.
God, man.
Wallets let you do that now too. Go for it.
Oh, I was just saying. I think that like one of the oh fuck! I totally lost it. I was just saying that. Oh yeah, some of their marketing has been kind of fried though. Like I just remember at one point there was like a bunch of commercials with like a bunch like media put out with fucking ledgers on like chains. Like you like wear your ledger around your neck. Like you're just trying to be dripped out with your ledger.
Sure that everybody, you get robbed. Like, while you're out clubbing and you're getting hammered and doing like 6 grams of ketamine, you should be bringing around like 90% of your liquid assets with you.
Exactly. Like just how like people will flex like an iced out rollie. It's like now like look at my like iced out ledger on my neck.
Like people going in like deck, and this is the thing is like I could legitimately get behind like customizing and like personalizing and decorating your ledger if it didn't feel like a $2 piece of technology, right? Like if they made a nice metal casing for it or something that felt like slightly more permanent, they had like replaceable boards or something like that. Like, and obviously it's dumb, right? Like you don't want to go around with like something that identifies you as the owner of like the vault, especially if you're like a public figure, because like all of it, there's this thing where like if you have more than like 10,000 followers on Twitter, people assume you have like $10 million, right? So if someone finds the Lucas Ledger, they're going to go to more trouble trying to open that one than they will just like some random ledger, right? So it's like it's really dumb. But also at a certain point, I don't care. And I'm willing to be a huge retard that is liable to get robbed because of his retardation if it's like funny to me to have my like internet name engraved on a ledger or something like that, right? Like I would do it.
There's a trade-off. There's definitely a point where you're like, this is funny enough that it's worth the L.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like Keystone reached out to both me and Verse and they were like, yeah, like we'll make you like customized versions of our new upcoming wallet if you want to like talk about it on the podcast or something like that. And there's a part of me that was like, it would be intelligent if I would tell them to not like customize it and like just send me a sticker, review that instead. And I was like, no, like put the fucking bisexual rabbit avatar on my ledger so everyone knows it's mine, and then I'm gonna go get my ass blown out when somebody steals it.
That's so good, man.
Anyway, this podcast sponsored by Keystone.
Listen, they just got free adverts. I don't know. This podcast sponsored by Bera.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, regardless, we're just gonna like say that random people sponsor us is the other fun.
Yeah, that was our trick for a while. Well, it didn't really work.
Well, it's because we
this
did it
podcast
like once, like a
sponsored
joke,
by
right?
Pornhub.
Oh, this it might actually OnlyFans might actually be a better.
I wonder if OnlyFans would sponsor us. We're not big
Dude,
enough.
You've got the target market already. Like you've got the plug on the OnlyFans girls.
That's one of the most bizarre things. It'll be like we have like I wonder what proportion of our listener demographic is actually like OnlyFans girls versus like normal
like
girls.
4 girls maybe.
4 girls maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Different question for you. Are you bullish on-chain OnlyFans? Like, do you think that's going to happen at some point?
I think basically that when girls figure out they don't have to pay taxes on crypto through like certain convoluted pathways. Obviously this is all like don't have to pay, like obviously like you have to pay, but you don't have,
of course.
I think that there's going to be something, right? Because they don't like taxes. OnlyFans automatically forces them to take taxes. And if they can go, it's like how a bunch of like pseudo darknet dealers will go and say like, we'll give you a 20% discount if you pay in crypto. And it's like, why are they doing that? It's because they're not disclosing the sales that they make to people who buy in crypto, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the OnlyFans people aren't going to offer a 20% discount, they're just going to say, oh, it's the same price, except now I keep like all like 40% of it or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just going to make 40% more. Like as soon as they figure that one out, I think they're going to use it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't understand taxes fundamentally or percentages or whatever the fuck, but it's just,
I mean, if anything, I suspect that like OnlyFans integrates crypto. I don't know if
I can totally see that.
But it's like, what's the point of integrating crypto? Is it just so that guys who don't pay taxes can gift OnlyFans girls? I don't know.
I don't think it's that actually. I think it's actually like, there's I think a lot of people who are like subscribe to OnlyFans are like married dudes and like older dudes and shit as well who are like, yes, here's this like 18-year-old woman that I will gaze at, right, while being like happily married or something. And that like pops up on their credit card statements and shit too, right? I imagine that would actually be like
that's
the hiding angle would probably be big.
And if you tell your wife that you're investing in like I want to make sure that we like grow old and have a savings account together, babe. So that's why I've been Bitcoin every week. And it's like you're actually buying some like 19-year-olds like tits.
And then you get to see your leaderboard score at the end of the month when you realize, oh, you sent 45 ETH, and then now it's worth a fucking several mil, and you're like, ah.
This is kind of depressing because like, this happens probably like once a week at least now, where I have this realization of like, I really do like crypto. I think it enables a lot of cool things. Obviously, I'm working in this space, but then I like think about like, fuck. Every time someone suggests something to me that's definitely going to happen, it's like some sort of like horrendous, like satanic, like marriage destroying, OnlyFans pay pigging use of. God damn it, dude! Like, can it be like, can it be cool?
Can't we save the kids, bro?
Like, can we cure cancer at some point? But no.
That one's kind of funky though. Like. I think the things that we see a lot more of right now are that. But this is another thing I was talking with some homies about recently. Like, I feel like I would sleep better at night if I knew at some point, like, the work that we're doing or the infrastructure that we're building, like, has an altruistic or a positive endpoint. Where like I spend like the first half of my career in healthcare. Like, I like building shit that helps people. And I was like, there's like I actually, it's a bit of a meme, but I do think the cross-border / like third world, second world, developing country payments narrative is massive if done right. And like Tron's doing a very good job of this right now. But like I remember when I was in Discord when our community first popped off, and we had like Nigerian dudes in there talking about how they tried to use Frax locally. And like some of our boys are building like phones that they're going to distribute across all of Africa with like crypto built in. Like I know it's like it's often a little bit like cornball-y at first, but I genuinely do believe that at some point down the road, there's like an edge in actually helping people from like a payment / stable unit of value point of view that crypto can actually enable. And it'll be sick if / when that gets pulled off. Like I think that'd be actually really sick.
Never achieves anything else from this point. Like we never develop any additional technology. Everything else just proves to be like total vaporware. Like the fact that we have the ability to send money permissionlessly across the world is already like that already did it. Like that already changed like finance totally, right? And it's not something that you can really like care about that much or understand if you're in America, because all of this stuff is like, like banking is kind of behind the scenes and like easy enough as it is. But if you've ever tried to hit your bank up to get them to authorize a transaction on the weekend, only to realize that they're closed because it's a weekend, you definitely understand why crypto is cool. It sucks
big
ass
time.
being trapped in a foreign country and having like a bank lock being placed when you're trying to like buy food or something. That shit is so annoying.
That was having the Coinbase card in a foreign country, and which I never thought was actually going to be useful. I was like, oh my god, my life is fucking like I'm never going. I can't go back to like this fucking normie bank shit, because like my card got frozen like 6 different times. My normal card, and I was like, oh well, I can put crypto on this card real quick, and I think it'll work. And yeah, I was having a blast. Because it automatically converted to the native currency too, so I was like, "Oh yeah."
I had to go like that's huge. I remember when I was first trying to buy crypto off of my like actual salary in like the 2017 run, and I like deposited money into, I forget what, I think it was Gemini, and I had to like, Wells Fargo blocked me from depositing or approving the transaction or whatever. And so I called them, and then they were like, okay, I can't do that, but I have to go one level up and they can approve it. And then the next person was like, I can't do that, but if I go like a level up, my boss can approve it. And I went like 4 levels up, and I was like, I need to like fucking talk to like the VP of like Wells Fargo to approve my like $500 deposit for Bitcoin. Like, this is really insane, dude. Like, and that was the point when I started understanding all the like crazy schizo boomer guys who are like the banking system, like centralized banking is a scam. I was like, oh shit, like what if like Uncle's right? Oh no.
No, dude, it's so real in a fucked manner, right? And I do think like, we always joke about the institutions are coming and shit, and like we're actually like seeing more of that happening right now than I think we ever have in like a long ass time. So I think that like we'll very much end up with a barbell distribution. You'll have like the Giga degen shit. You'll have the guys cooking up like power perps on NFTs, which actually will exist on Berachain. I'm kind of fired up for that. And then you'll also have people being like, yes, we're going to find a way to actually enable effective payment structures in Argentina where there's hyperinflation, or rural shit in Africa, whatever there may be, right? Like I think that's sick if it's actually done correctly.
Yeah, funny shit about Argentina. Are you aware of like what they do if they need to like buy a house there?
Oh, bro. I don't know if I want to know.
Well, so like their currency is deflating so quickly that like when they sign the contract to actually take ownership of the house, only then do they actually go to a currency exchange and change their money from USD into Argentinian pesos. And then literally like, so it's like 10 minutes before
just for
they need
settlement.
to pay. Yeah. Like it's like they do not want to be holding the Argentinian peso for literally more than half an hour until they can make the sale, because they'll get slipped, or they'll lose like 5% on inflation if they sit there holding it for like a day. It's like fucking insane.
Dude, yeah, I feel like I saw something about like their bonds being like 70% or some shit because of like the fact of like how hard they're fucking getting wrecked there.
Yeah,
like that's amazing.
It's really
like
funny.
wasn't there some push to have them actually adopt the USD like as their like currency, like a central bank thing? I feel like I heard about this at some point.
Yeah, I think
they're actually doing it with like Bitcoin now. I think we have a friend verse actually who is somewhat involved in the Argentinian government drafting some sort of digital currencies legislation.
I think it has something. I think the reason why
is that El Salvador?
No,
so it's a completely different one. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Because when they had their election a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, or was it this year? Whenever they had their election, that was like part of one of the big selling points, like the arguments about the like how they're going to back their currency or whatever, the changes to USD or this or that.
No, there's like a lot of foreign governments that are very interested in getting in on just the overall cryptoification of their currency in some capacity. Like I was working with another company that was doing some sort of payment processing stuff, and they had a letter of interest from a Middle Eastern government to basically like digitize their currency through that processor. And it wasn't one of the countries that you're thinking. Like you're immediately thinking like, oh, like Saudi or Dubai or something, right? But it wasn't those. And it wasn't also like the person that I was dealing with, they weren't like a big processor. So it was sort of like, oh shit, like this is something that there's actually like a decent amount of interest out there for.
Oh, for
I think it's
sure.
just a matter of time, honestly, man. And like there are groups, like I think the groups that we see doing it are not going to be the ones that people first look to for signal. Like I don't think it's going to be the US, and the UK is actually doing something funky with like this concept like e-money that's like slightly different, and like people are trying to use that from like a reg arb point of view and stuff like that.
Such a
But
bad branding. E-money.
it's
God,
whack
that's
name, bro. Makes
awful.
me think of
Money,
e-girls.
bro.
It didn't work for e-girls. It's not gonna work for
Yeah,
your money, bros.
that's what I'm saying. But
Money
like
on the
I think
one.
that I think if you look at like the weird places, or that's probably a rude way of putting it. But like if you look at the places that people don't typically think about for economic/financial signal, I think they might actually like pave the way in some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll
And
get
a
to see
lot
a
of
lot
it
of
is
like the rest
because
of
they
our
don't
FOMO
really
in.
have like
Exactly.
America, it's the same reason that like all the biomed stuff is getting outsourced from America, and basically all recent like pharmaceutical or like weird niche bleeding edge medical development is happening in like either like US territories or weird biomed like acutely set up cities for like research purposes that get disbanded after the fact, but aren't they're like outside the reach of US jurisdiction, is because like we have regulated it all into the point of like it can't happen now. Like you
It's
can't do
just glacial.
experimental things in the US. Yeah.
It's so glacial, man. Then you see more people setting off like, setting up these offshore, like these seasteading sort of approaches where they, can do like everything funky from gene editing to, I'd say more like, concerning research, honestly. Some of which I think is like very interesting just from like a exploring the bounds of, human potential point of view. Others where I'm just like, yo, this is kind of terrifying. And like,
Yeah.
this is probably going to kill us. But like, low column
But
A, low
it's
column
kind of
B.
like AI, where it's like it's
Yeah.
the cat's out of the bag. Like what? I mean, you
Cat's out
can
of the
ban it
bag.
in the U.S., but like you think China's not going to start making super
Oh, bro.
soldiers? No. So it's like
Bro, totally.
we either have to make the American super soldiers faster than China does, or else they just like I don't know. It's like it's going to be like the Israeli rave, where they come in on like hang gliders and shit, like just like
Jesus.
flocks of like 300 IQ Chinese super soldiers parasailing
Yeah, yeah.
Over
into
for us, bro.
like
Just
American
jacked as
Like
suburbs.
Red
fuck.
I don't know.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just looking like all like the Olympic like power lifters. Like, oh my god, bro. Yeah, no, I've thought a lot about this actually because like my girlfriend is very pro reg and I'm very like anti reg for the most part. And like I think there's a time and place for it, but I actually think that like in 9 out of 10 cases, the 1% of people that gets access to interesting new technologies, like I don't think there's a means of preventing that in most cases. Like someone
Yeah.
always finds a way to get the cat out of the bag. And even right now, I have friends who are like close to the guy who originally like helped like gene edit those first babies in China, and they are working on shit up that alley. Like this isn't like a conspiracy
Yeah.
theory thing. It's just like there's active research initiatives, right? Like so that's
Yeah.
totally gonna go the
Why
same
would
way
they
for
not?
AI.
Frankly, like
Yeah, like it's stupid not to in the
Yeah.
like I guess if you're thinking about like like single player like PvP esque like national superiority, right? In
yeah,
terms of just resources, which is like scary in one way, but also probably unlocks some really exciting stuff in terms of what we see in the next few years.
yeah. And especially
Absolutely.
along the medical stuff, there's always like it's very easy to say like, oh well, like because they were too lax with their screening of this drug, like it was released and this many people died because it didn't. But it's also like there is a flip side, right? Like at a certain point, if you take 20 years of like gradually increasing phases of testing for some drug that
Yeah,
is on the opposite end of like a very deadly condition, right? Like if you tell me,
of
okay, you have
course.
like brain cancer, and your
Yeah, yeah,
options here are either use our existing treatments, which have like a 15% chance of working, or do nothing until you die, then I'm going to say those options seem kind of shitty. Surely there's another option, right? And that other option is going to be finding out whatever the experimental treatments are and using them myself illegally, right? Or experimenting with like weird, like back alley brain doctors who have some sort of
yeah,
like a witch doctor solution, right? So, and then like,
Mm.
there's going to be a given number of the people like me in that situation who wind up also killing themselves. So, like,
Mm.
it's not
yeah,
like you're weighing the deaths of the people who died from unregulated drugs against zero. Like, you have to figure out what's actually going on the opposite side of that. And if it's like a very crippling disease, it makes sense
yeah,
to
yeah.
approve stuff under a lot less testing.
Data.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like I've done work in rare disease in the past, so you make like a really good point, man. Like and in some cases there are like there are some of the right things in place. So they have like compassionate use studies, for example, where it's like you can have a treatment that's, a couple ways into the reg pipeline. Like
But
it's
people get
fast
gated
phase
from
one or phase.
those.
Oh, still, yeah, they're by no means they're far from perfect, right? And you end up only with like a few people getting access to them, and then like, yeah, it's just rough, man. Because even in that approval process, the other side of that is like it can take 10 years for something to get approved, and by that point, either something has evolved beyond the point of it actually being useful, like the disease,
Yeah.
or there's other solutions at like slightly earlier stages that are magnitudes better, and it's like cool, like you're pulling up with like the 2003 Honda Civic. While like someone's trying to put a Porsche through the driveway, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's like with cancer. I mean, basically every existing treatment has its effect. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Nothing I say is medical, financial. Again, I'm not employed. I don't know what I'm saying. But basically every single existing treatment has its efficacy multiplied by like a factor of 2 if you do it or take it while you're fasting, right?
Yep.
And so you have a bunch of stuff like that. The simple knowledge that you can do that winds up totally obsoleting tons and tons and tons of these. Really, like, because you're not like, if you can take a chemotherapy drug that sucks twice less than another one and fast while taking it, and still hit like roughly like something that's going to be like over 100% remission rates. You're not going to take like the one that ruins your life forever.
Correct.
And like makes your hair fall out and like your eyes bleed and shit like that if you don't have to.
Yeah,
of course.
Okay, so I have like 4 minutes before I have to leave. So we should wrap up.
I'm totally good to keep going. Smokey might want to run off.
I got some time. I'm chilling.
Yeah, you could just leave this open and then like
I'll leave this open then.
Yeah, and then just come back and close it. We'll just have to clip out like an hour or something of bullshit at the end, which is funny, I guess.
Yeah, no
it's
worries.
Funny to have like a 3-hour audio file where the end is just like silence.
Awesome. Well, thank
When he gets older, he won't sound like this anymore, right?